Our first candidate that's going to speak today was he was our last elected superintendent of public instruction in Kentucky. And please join me in welcoming Mr. John Stephenson.
Well, I thought they was going to do this by alphabetical order, but I don't mind going first. Sometimes the good Lord calls you to be first. The gift that I brought down to be on the auction block over there is a gift that's very close to my heart. And because in 1987, Patsy, who's out there in the audience with the county clerk's office, and Bev McClendon, stood in front of their courthouse when June and I came through and filmed the history of Monroe County. And I never will forget, as long as I live, and I've said this all over the state of Kentucky, when I asked Bev to introduce himself, he said, "I'm the High Sheriff of Monroe County." And he was proud of it, and I was proud of him. And I hoped he would be here tonight, and I might try to stop by and say hello to him. But over there in the silent auction tonight is a DVD of that history and all the history of all the surrounding counties here, including Dr. Thomas Clark giving the history, overall history of Kentucky, standing on the streets with me in Fayette County. That was a chore I did in 1987 and 88. We donated a set of those tapes to every county library in the state because we believe that every county has its value and worth and its importance to our Commonwealth. Now, one thing I want to tell you about the counties in Kentucky. You know, there's a lot of history how each one came about, by a horseback ride to the county seat. But those counties in the Commonwealth are only as strong as their weakest link. Now, we got something going on named health care in Washington. Now, I'm very pro-life. I'm for a human life amendment, as a matter of fact. But I know something else. We do need health care reform in this country because we don't need to have 30-some million people without health care in our nation. That isn't America. It isn't Jesus Christ. Because when I ask any issue, a question about any issue, I always ask myself, what would Jesus do? Then I ask myself the next question, what did Jesus do? Jesus never passed anybody by. If you remember the woman at the well, that he was without sin cast the first stone. If you remember how he treated the man on the cross that died beside him, gave him a door open to heaven. When Jesus knocks on your door, let him in. Let him in. I'm a different kind of Republican. I'm a Republican that understands what's really wrong with this nation. Greed has taken over all of our party mechanisms at the national level, our institutions at the national level, and we must humble ourselves, as it says in 2 Chronicles 14, seek God's face, ask Him for forgiveness of our sins, change our ways, and then He will heal our land. And that's really why I'm in this race. Now, I sort of felt sorry for Mr. Rand the other day, and of course I even felt more sorry for Trey. They had his picture there at this Tea Party debate and sort of made fun of him. And Mr. Rand, they made him speak for 1 hour and 15 minutes and answer questions by 3 panelists, grilling. And they only made me speak for 3 minutes, and then they cut the mic off at 1.5 minutes. And I said, my goodness gracious sakes alive, I didn't know I could convince so many people to vote for me in 1.5 minutes. So I sort of felt sorry for Mr. Rand being taken advantage of like that. And I made a pledge. There will be no more debates in the Commonwealth of Kentucky unless we all get equal time, equal billing, and equal rights to say our piece to the voters. That's America. That's the Constitution. And as a government teacher, I understand the Constitution very, very well. And it was our founding fathers, if you remember, George Washington, when he was elected president, that took the nation to prayer on his knees. It was Abraham Lincoln, in healing our country, that took the nation to prayer on his knees. And when Harry Truman had to go to Berlin with the airlift for 365 days, he led the country. And when Ronald Reagan said to the Russians, "Trust but verify," trust but verify, that's the kind of defense we want in this country. Now I'm going to tell you something tonight. I'm only spending $5,000 in this campaign. You will see no yard signs. You will see no bumper stickers. You'll see a little card I'm handing out and my history tapes, and you'll see my speeches and my opponent's speeches on my website. Because in fairness, I put a copy of each of my opponent's speeches on unedited, so you can see each of us in action across the state. God didn't make us to be unfair. He made us to practice the golden rule. And the golden rule is not to attack another human being. The golden rule is to speak to the issues and be honest. We have a famine on honesty and truth in Washington. We need the truth. We do not need representation that goes to Washington that has already been bought and sold and ties the hands of the people that are elected. I can only make you one promise as a United States Senator. I will represent the people and the good Lord to the best of my abilities. I was your former superintendent of education. I did so there when I stood up for the Constitution of Kentucky. I was your former commissioner of motor vehicles, where no licenses were fixed by anybody in my office, whether we were requested to do so or not. I didn't fix my own, and I wouldn't fix anybody else's. Where I worked for Congressman John Breckinridge in Washington, D.C., where he said, "John, be honest and go do the work." And that's what I did. And when I filmed the history of these counties in Kentucky, I love my Commonwealth as much as I can anything else in the world, except one thing, two things actually. My lovely wife sitting here, June Guyman Stephenson, who traveled the state with me, stand up, hon. The best decision I ever made in my life. Short of this decision. Born in a little house,